Hey friends, it's Lisa here with your love note for Sunday, January 10th, 2021. Today's love note is actually an answer to some questions that some of you have had. So over the past couple of days, I've had some questions. Thanks, Brian, actually, for raising the questions about guides. You know, what is this business about the guides? Who are they, and what's that story? And then also questions about consciousness or about levels, dimensions like 5D, 3D. What is the story with these dimensions? And today, the guides actually encouraged me to come in and answer these particular questions. So when I talk about the guides, if some of you are going, what the hell is she talking about? Who are these voices in her head? It's actually, we all have guides. So in my understanding of the world, and first of all, please know that your discernment in all of this is really all that matters, okay? So if you're hearing me say things that you're just like, that doesn't make any freaking sense, or that does not fit within my worldview at all, that's cool. That's cool. Just put it aside. Just put it aside. I'm not asking anybody to take on anything that feels uncomfortable or incorrect or not right for them. So this is how I see the world, and this is my understanding of the world as the guides have also helped me see and have shared with me. So my understanding of the world is before we are born, our souls actually make deals or arrangements with other souls. And so we each have guides in higher dimensions that are actually helping, protecting, guiding, informing, having our back throughout this crazy thing we call human life. Every one of us has them. Some people refer to them as spirit guides. Some people might think of them as guardian angels. For some, it might be like the souls of deceased loved ones that are helping you from the other side. Whatever the case, it might be angels, archangels. Some of you may talk to Jesus. Some of you may talk to, versions of Buddha. So it could be different for everyone. But we all have access, and we actually all have guides, whether we choose to recognize it or not. So they're there. They're waiting. Typically, they are waiting for us to be willing to connect, be willing to listen, be willing to actually act, in collaboration and coordination with them. When we have synchronicities that happen in our life or amazing coincidences or things like that, typically, it has nothing to do with luck and a whole lot to do with our guides and our helpers on the other side, or in higher dimensions, actually helping to arrange things here on Earth so they work out for us, so that we can meet the right people that we need to meet at the right times in our life, so that doors can open when they need to open, so that we avert harm when harm might be, headed our direction. The thing is, while we're on Earth, we all have free will. Okay, that's kind of the amazing thing and the scary thing and the challenging thing about being on Earth is that we do have free will. So our guides, are in their higher dimensional state, trying to communicate with us, trying to direct and point us in the right direction in a way that is in alignment with what our soul came into this life saying it wanted to do. They're there. We don't remember. When we're born, we go through this whole process of amnesia. We get the veil of amnesia and we don't remember. Robert, you're asking, is it like intuition? It absolutely is. When we're connected with our guides, we're getting those intuitive hits. So intuitive people are often communicating with their own guides, with other people's guides, as a way of getting that intuitive information to then share. So you're hitting the nail on the head right there. That's exactly it. Some people who lean into their intuitive capacity may be able to hear their guides. They may be able to see their guides. They may be able to channel the wisdom of their guides. They just know. For example, they may be able to feel their guides. Some of us can do all of that, okay? And some guides communicate in different ways. So I had one guide for a while, and still, when I would make travel plans, he would come and I could feel him energetically. It's not like he was, you know, like I couldn't see him, but I could feel him tap me on the shoulder. No kidding, like a tap on the shoulder. And then I would go into meditation and say, hey, what's up? And he would give me like assignments. I call them divine assignments to do while I was traveling to that place. So for example, when I was in Sedona recently, or when I was in Egypt, you know, at the end of last year, or wherever, like they guide me and ask me to do certain things. And in my free will, I can choose, do I want to do that or do I not? You know, and typically because I know how this works and I actually love working with the guides, that's why I do it. This whole video series, my guide's saying, hey, we need you to get out and actually communicate on a regular basis. Okay. You gonna tell me what to say? Because I don't know what the hell to say. They're like, yeah, we got your back. So that's how this is going. I listen to my guides. They share with me what they'd like for me to share with you, and I do it. That's how it works. And hopefully somebody out there is actually getting something out of this. I know I'm learning in the process, which is cool, but hopefully somebody else is getting something out of it too. So we all have guides. We may have different guides at different times. Okay, so when we step into certain parts of our like life mission or life purpose, there might be different guides that come in to assist with that particular area because that's their like area of expertise, their specialty. So when I'm doing healing work, like energetic healing work, for example, I work with Archangel Raphael. I will often work with Jesus. I work with the lioness-headed goddess Sekhmet from ancient Egypt. Those are the three, sometimes Mother Mary, those four. Those are the ones that when I'm doing healing work, that they really come in and their energy is strong and palpable and super helpful. One of the first guides, even before I knew that there was a path to be on, one of the first times I felt the energy of a guide was when I was in college. I was a freshman in college and had a car wreck, and things didn't go well in that car wreck. And it was so weird because I felt the presence of my mom's dad, so my grandpa, that I actually never met because he passed away before I was ever born. But it's like I know he was there and helped me survive that crash. And there's not a doubt in my mind. And I knew it right then that it was like his energy that was there, even though I had never felt his energy. I didn't know him in physical form to know that that was the case. You know, my Uncle Jim, who has passed, he's also been one that's come through and been a guide for me on many different occasions. And I think is with me pretty regularly now. Thanks to them, I also have the capacity and ability to like talk with the loved ones of others who have passed. So, you know, anyway, they can help open doors to other people's spirit guides, to other angels, archangels, ascended masters, in higher dimensions for us to communicate with. One of the first like archangels that ever came and talked to me was, Archangel Metatron. And this was shortly after my daughter was born. So this would have been like 2003, 2004, around in there. And man, talk about a powerful, huge, huge energy. But he's been consistent, you know, ever since like the early 2000s in terms of being willing to come share, help me on my path. We all have a purpose for being alive. And one of the things that the guides help us do is remember our purpose and take steps, take actions, connect with people that are in alignment with fulfilling of that purpose for a most benevolent outcome, for, you know, on behalf of light, on behalf of, you know, something for the planet. So that's kind of guides in a nutshell. We all have them. Some of us choose to communicate with them. Some of us, when we first start communicating with them, wonder if we're going batshit crazy because what do you mean I'm talking to people I can't see or really hear and I just know what they're saying and where are these thoughts mine? Are these thoughts not mine? I had all of those questions, all of them, for a really long time, a really long time, until I really started trusting. And there's a point at which you just start trusting and you just start knowing and being able to differentiate and discern, is this me or is this a higher wisdom? Is this a higher wisdom of light or is this some, you know, astral punk jackrabbit trying to screw with me? those are things that you really have to be conscious of, just to make sure that you're connecting with guides that are in alignment with your highest and best interest and in alignment with the light. For me, at least, that's my, what concerns me, or what I think about when I'm connecting with guidance. So that's guidance, and that's really, what these videos have been about, is communicating from that place of guidance. The second question that Brian raised had to do with 3D and 5D. And what's the story with the dimensions? What the hell are you talking about? Moving dimensions. Where are we going? What's the deal? And really, we all learn about the different dimensions, or at least first, second, third dimension when we're in school, right? Third dimension, we typically think of it as things that we can touch, feel, smell, pick up. They have weight. They're here. We can interact with them in a tangible way. Fourth dimension, you start adding in, like time and space and stuff like that. Fifth dimension, it's not about a place. When we talk about shifting dimensions, we're not going anywhere. Dimensions are a level of consciousness. So what we're doing right now is raising levels of consciousness. The way it's been described to me, Earth used to actually be a higher consciousness planet. There was higher consciousness on this planet. There was a great fall of consciousness here on Earth. Through thousands and thousands of years, we've been working our way back up the consciousness spiral. And that's when people talk about the Great Awakening, or people waking up to different ways of seeing or viewing the world, what they're really doing is waking up to the opportunity or possibility of this higher level of consciousness. So if there are any Matrix fans out there, for example, I think in terms of science fiction movies. So that's just, that's kind of how I communicate oftentimes, Star Wars or the Matrix, other things. But if you think about the Matrix and living in the Matrix without knowing it, you're living in this system. With 3D right now, what we see, a lot of 3D is driven by duality. So black and white, us versus them, rich, poor, light, dark, greed, generosity, all these either or, different ends of the spectrum kind of thing. So a lot of duality, the whole yin and yang thing. As we move further into a fifth dimensional state of consciousness, some of that duality and polarity starts falling away, because we start stepping more into different values or being driven by different principles. So it's less about ego and more about soul, less about competition and more about collaboration and cooperation, less about how, scarcity mindset, how do I accumulate as much stuff as I can for me, and more about how do we just make sure everybody has what they need, less about fear and more about love. So when, some people think of the fifth dimension in terms of more like heaven on earth, right? When you think about all those things that different religious doctrines stood for, in the United States, a lot of it might be say, for example, Christianity. So the very best aspects of Christianity and what Jesus stood for example, or, other spiritual leaders throughout time, that actually being driven by love, actually being driven by a sense of humility, a sense of caring for your neighbor, a sense of coming together, recognizing that we are all part of one, instead of, and what hurts you actually hurts me too. That way of thinking, that idea of Christ consciousness, recognizing, we call Jesus the Christ, but he was one of what many would say, one of many Christed beings, that there are other Christed beings too who carry this Christ consciousness and have been teachers over time, delivering messages about this Christ consciousness here on earth. And that's one of the things that we have an opportunity to step more into. So as higher levels of energy, higher frequencies of energy are not only hitting the planet, but integrating in the planet, not only the earth, but in us as human beings, as we are walking around holding higher levels of energy, higher frequencies, we actually start gravitating toward that higher dimensional, state of consciousness. The two just go hand in hand. And so as that happens, we are actually in a time period where some of us are serving like as a bridge to help people, like get from 3D through 4D quickly over to 5D, So some of us are serving as a bridge to help educate people and help them understand, what are we talking about here, and how do I get from here to here with as much ease and grace as possible? Because it's not going to be totally easy for everyone who is so, driven by and committed to this idea of polarity. There are a lot of people in our society that actually benefit and profit from this us versus them kind of stuff. And as we move out of that, there's going to be people kicking and screaming, because A, they don't like change, and B, they're scared to death that they might not have as much in a more 5D love-based, generated system. So some of us are serving as almost like an educational bridge, to help people better understand where we are and where we're headed and how to get there with ease and grace. In the meantime, there are also some of us who are like straddling both at the same time. So there's like 1 foot in 3D thinking about feeding the kids, paying the bills, oh geez, I have to put gas in my car again. Just all the 3D stuff that we worry about, all the stuff that we know makes adulting hard. We've got 1 foot worried about that. And then our other foot is in 5D where we're going, whoa, you mean I can talk to guides? What, you mean this energy healing is actually a thing? I can help people feel better? What, you mean astral travel? I can go out of my body and I can see things that are going, all the stuff. There's a whole lot of interesting stuff in the higher dimensions that probably in the past was called witchcraft. Some of us lost our heads many times for, having dabbled in stuff that people didn't understand. But the truth is, all of the intuitive stuff is higher dimensional stuff. That's the part of our brain that's actually connected to and accessing those higher level states of consciousness that's allowing us to bring that information in to be useful in our current 3D world. They didn't know how to understand that in the past. So they thought it was some weird, freaky, hippy-dippy, voodoo bullshit, witchy stuff. And people, were like burned at the stake and lost their heads for it. Nobody's losing their heads this time. My guides have promised me I get to keep my head this time. Nobody's losing their heads this time. But we really have an opportunity to lean in and recognize everybody, every single one of us has the capacity to tap in. Every one of us does. It's a choice. It's simply a choice. Sometimes it's not even a choice. Sometimes it kicks you in the ass. Sometimes it's more than a tap on the shoulder. It's a boot to the head. And it's like, hey, I'm here and I want to talk to you. People, and that's one of the things right now that has been challenging for some folks is that as this higher level of energy is coming onto the planet, some of these intuitive capacities or the ability to access these higher dimensions has been like waking people up like a big cosmic alarm clock. And they're like, whoa, holy shit, what's going on here? I'm seeing things, I'm hearing things, I'm knowing things. What do you mean I can see your spirit guides or I can feel your energy or whatever? And for some folks, it is freaking them smooth out, because they don't know what on earth is going on or how to deal with it. And so there are some of us who have been through that process. Fortunately, for some of us, it was a little more gradual. I've been at this for, it's going to be nearly 2 decades soon, right? So I've had the gradual lead up to this. Others who are waking up instantaneously, it is difficult for them to like wrap their head around all of these expanded capacities and understandings in a way that seems sane. So these are wild times. Exciting times, I think. I'm stoked about it all and really excited that more people are tapping in and tuning in to their own true inner power and intuitive power. There's been such a push for so long to disconnect us from our power, because if we remember that we've got spirit guides that we can tune into, when we remember that we've got all the clairs, clairvoyance, clairaudience, claircognizance. If you don't know the clairs, let's talk because they're fun. When we've got all these abilities inside ourselves to lead a more empowered life, where we don't have to depend so much on a system, who does that scare? Well, the people in power in the systems that are benefiting off us thinking that we're weak and that we don't have this capacity. So as we lean in and open up and actually own and embody our own power from a place of love, there's the kicker, right? Because all of this can be used for dark too. And as you can probably figure out, that's not my style. So I'm all about using it for the light side, right? We may have to be, the Rebel Alliance with the Jedi, whatever. Using it for the light side to the benefit and encouragement of unconditional love. That's why I'm here. I don't know why you're here, but that's why I'm here. And that's why the guides come and communicate with me, because that's part of their plan too, is how can we help facilitate unconditional love on this planet to help move toward this 5D level of consciousness. So that's why the different dimensions, the guides, the guides are in a higher dimension. That's where they are. That's why we don't necessarily see them hanging around us all the time. That's why it's all interconnected. We all have a purpose. We all have, access to our guides. The guides are all there. They may shift over time, but they're there. And we as a species, as a human race, and the planet herself are moving toward this 5th dimensional way of being, this 5th dimensional level of consciousness. We're on the path toward that. It doesn't really matter how much we kick and scream and drag our heels trying to avoid change. It's going to happen, and the change is going to be good. So some of us are here just trying to help it be a little easier for others who might not yet understand or kind of know what's going on. If you have questions about any of this, please reach out. Apparently they like answering questions. So, hey, thanks, guides. And that's part of the reason I'm here, is to answer those questions and to help, be a bridge builder in some ways, or a teacher, a mentor, a guide, whatever, to help people understand what's going on, to help them lean into it so that this transition can happen with greater ease and greater grace for all of us. It doesn't necessarily have to be hard. It just doesn't. A lot of stuff in the world feels hard right now. And there's a lot of changes right now as we're moving out of this very polarized, very, duality-based 3D system toward a more 5D, level of consciousness and way of being. The dark side and those that profit and benefit from 3D, man, they are digging in their heels and throwing a little hissy fit right now. And we see it all around us. We see it. Our opportunity is to not get stuck in it, to overcome it, to remember that love is more powerful than any of the rest of this bullshit, and to choose love over and over and over and over and over again, because it is the most courageous thing we can do. And it's exactly the choice that's most in alignment with where we're headed. So I hope this answered more questions than it raised. If it did raise more questions for you, please feel free to reach out, put the questions down below, send me a direct message, whatever, and I'll answer them next time. I hope you've had a fantastic weekend. Here's your love note for January 10th. Remember, you are loved and you are invited and welcome to pay that love forward, because the planet and your neighbors, we all need it. We need your love. So have a fantastic night, and I will see you tomorrow.